Hey, so what's going on, y'all? This has been a while since I made a video with regards to this podcast. I've been juggling a lot of things like I normally do, and when you're juggling a lot of stuff, some things fall off the by the wayside. Um, I kind of hit a snag in my podcast for a couple of different reasons. One, started traveling more. I started to get involved more in the community. Started working on my skills as a rider with mountain biking. Trying to get more invested with those in the community, as I said, in personal relationships. And on top of that, the podcast fell by the wayside. Well, I invested some money, my own money, to make this studio a lot more comfortable for guests and myself, to kind of have a more relaxed environment at the same time. Uh, Go with a minimalistic setup, not having the boom mics and all that stuff. I mean, I still have those depending on how this audio is going to work out with these lapel mics. So that's going to be a work in progress. I probably got the podcast up to like about 85% right now, or the podcast room. Still waiting on emails from people I sent out for interviews. I'll probably follow up with some other guests that I had that fell through. That's one of the other things. A lot of people that are that I want to interview are very busy people, and sometimes their schedules just kind of stuff comes up, life obligations or what have you. So on top of that, other podcasts that I've had, I probably had about three of them that I've had that we do the podcast, what have you, and then afterwards they have a change of heart, or just something comes up and they don't want to, the podcast on air. So I understand that. I just deleted it afterwards, and it's not a big deal to me. However, it does come into effect the flow of episodes kind of going out. So going forward, as opposed to trying to do like one a week, um, which is kind of a lot of work because I have to set them up, and then do the video editing and audio and all that stuff, which I don't mind, but it can be it can put a lot of stress when I'm trying to do other things as well, bike mechanic as well as trying to work on racing and everything else. So with that, it's I may start to do podcasts such as this where I'm just kind of giving my thoughts on something, and that's one of the things that I love about long form podcasting is that you can extract, like, you can have a topic and not just have these quick sound bites. You can have this long form thought process and really kind of pick apart and really address it from a new, like, all the nuances of it, to help people that are listening critically think and how to see one subject as opposed to it being us versus them, or some polarizing way to go about it. It's the same thing with my guests that I have on. Sometimes I agree with what they're saying, sometimes I don't. But at the end of it, I'm not trying to argue with them. I'm just trying to hear them out, understanding where they're coming from, and maybe come away with a different perspective to help me become a little bit more wiser with the subject or the experiences of it, and kind of help challenge my own beliefs, or my own ways of seeing things, my own biases that I have that I'm not aware I have until I interview somebody, and it's just to keep growing as a person, as a human being, and at the same time, it's also a place to kind of, where there's whether if there's bullshit, then there's bullshit, and just call it as it is. So it's all trying to balance all those things. This podcast, if you haven't seen it, you can go to YouTube. It's on, just search Crashing Combos. It's also on Spotify, Pandora. It kind of goes out to just search Crashing Combos. There's about 60, a little over 60 episodes on there. Working on my guest list now, and as I said, I am going to probably gonna start having my own podcasting. So if somebody falls through, I'm still gonna try to push one out and just kind of um, put one of the topics that I've been kind of processing through that, like, whether it's a current event, whether it's mountain biking or whatever else, and I'll put that in the subject title. But I appreciate your patience with all this, and continue to learn, and at the same time share these stories with you, uh, for those that listen or watch. so that way they can like come away with a different experience, different understanding. That's what's needed more nowadays, as opposed to this, us versus them kind of mentality that's being pushed in pretty much all platforms, because it creates the most attention. It grabs your attention. They make money off your attention. They being corporations or whomever, it's all geared towards your attention. We are the product. At the end of the day, we are the product. That's why all these apps are free. That's why you have seemingly all these free things, but you're pretty much willingly giving up our time, your time, to whatever. And for those that know, I mean, and that understand, this life is short, and it's going to be gone before you know it. So try to be mindful of what you're giving your attention to, um, because before you know it, it'll be gone, and these people are just going to make money off of you. And at the end of the day, like, that's not my goal. My goal is to try to bring awareness, try to teach you something, try to give you something, some piece of knowledge or wisdom, and whatever. Either I'm sharing my story, somebody else is sharing their story, or we're just kind of interacting with each other. Mental resilience, mental health, not being a victim, being aware of our what's going on in the world. All these things are of interest to me, and hopefully, this resonates with some people. We're gonna laugh. We'll probably cry. We'll probably, I don't know. It's just going to be anything and everything in between. And one of those ultimate things that I also am trying to seek and have a bigger understanding and grasp for is my idea of God. Some people may cringe at that. I have cringed at that in the past, because I allowed misunderstandings or other people's viewpoints to shape my understanding of what I feel God is. And that had to do a lot with my upbringing and what have you. But through trying to understand myself, the way I operate in the world, and why I am the person I am today, I had to open some boxes in my past, in my immediate past. And as I continue to understand myself more and understand how we exist in this life, I start to understand the idea of God, and I keep unraveling that thread. So I'll have people on where we talk about the idea of God in many different forms of it. And at the end of it, I mean, you take what you want from it, and try to learn from it, understand it, because the more you pull the thread, as most people that are smarter than I have pulled in the past, they have found their idea or their understanding of God. You talk about Albert Einstein, you can talk about Nikola Tesla, and so forth and so on. These people that were experts in their particular career field have all the further down the rabbit hole you go, the more you start to understand that there is a bigger power at work. Most people get wrapped around the axle of, like, why did God allow these things in this life? And I used to do that too, because of things that I've witnessed personally. But at the end of the day, each person makes their decision based off the idea of free will. And then another thing is this idea of, I've had experiences in my life about, having one, I don't want to say a UFO encounter, but I did witness something, my mom and I, that was in New Mexico, that I still can't explain to this day. So that's always piqued my interest, extraterrestrials, and that concept. And if you look at the news today, David Grush and Jeremy Corbell, um, and so forth and so on, there's a bunch of people in the community that are kind of unraveling that truth. And I do kind of feel it all kind of goes back to the same source, but at the end of the day, these things I need to kind of just pull the thread so I can fully understand and grasp what I will eventually choose to believe in or not. But all the evidence that I've seen so far, something bigger at play. I'll just say that. Please join us as we move forward, and we'll learn together. Um, like I said, this podcast will go through a lot of different subjects, as any conversation. And really, this podcast is the art of conversation. So it's anything and everything that's kind of we've experienced in our lives, kind of culminating into two or three people having a conversation and sharing our experiences back and forth. And if you have trouble kind of just sitting here and listening to it all, there's audio form as I spoke to earlier. There's also video, like as I spoke to earlier, so you want to see our faces. But I also ask you to take it in bites. Some of these ideas and things we're going to talk about. I expect people to, sit with them, think about them, process them, and then kind of help themselves see um, life in a different way. Not trying to convince you of anything, but just try to apply to whatever biases you may have, and have a hopefully at the end of each episode you're leaving with some type of nugget that you're just like, damn, I didn't see it that way, or oh yeah, that makes sense, or agree with that, but at the end of the day I can see where they're going with it, but yeah, it's just crazy or whatever. So thanks again for your time. Please follow along. I'll continue to push out stuff via Instagram, and hopefully I can start getting something out in the next couple of weeks or so. Just got to finish up this room and then we'll go from there. So thank you for your time. If you have any people that you would want me to interview, appreciate it. Thanks a lot, and check us out at Crashing Combos on YouTube, and check us out on Spotify or any other streaming platform. Thank you. All right.